how to cause chaos in your IT organization.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the DevOps Roundup. Today we're going to be talking about basic troubleshooting tips, aka the common sense episode. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and let us know down below in the comments, have you ever ran into a situation where something's not quite right? You know how to troubleshoot, but maybe somebody in your team or a colleague or just even you yourself are like, how do I solve this problem? Well, John and I are going to give you our extensive years of knowledge in the IT and DevOps industry and give you our tips and tricks on things to do, things to consider, things to try when things aren't going as planned.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. And one of the reasons why we may look like we're laughing when we first come in here, because neither of us know which one is going to introduce which episode. And so we kind of do it on the fly. And thank you, Alex, for doing a great
And I'm getting really good at just pulling things out of my butt.
That's a great segue into troubleshooting, is how well can you pull the things out of your butt to be able to solve the problem?
Yeah.
Not one of the top 10 tips on the best troubleshooting solutions, but that goes with age and wisdom.
Yes. A lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it is scars, right? A lot of it is just you've been there, done that, seen it, experienced it, cried over it, cried some more. And then when you thought you were done crying, you cried even more.
So the thought behind this episode is recently I had an interesting engagement with someone who's not going to be named, where it turned out
It's okay. You can say my name, Sean.
oh no, it wasn't Alex. It was not Alex. That that during an outage, it was obvious that they did not have any experience troubleshooting anything, and that they were taking shots at the dark, talking over other people that actually had knowledge, and it was a very interesting situation. And so I'm like, have we as a population lost the ability to troubleshoot systems?
It might be an art. It might be a lost art. This reminds me of a scene. Have you seen The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson?
Long time ago. How old is that movie?
2013.
Yeah. I don't remember any aspect of it, but yes.
Well, there's a great scene where they have to find the bug, right? They have to find the bug, and they're out there on the whiteboard trying to troubleshoot all the code. And Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson are just like yapping words. Try this, try that, this and that. And they're like, this is going to be. And the developers are like, seriously, just guys, let us think.
Yeah.
Let us think and troubleshoot this. So, but I think this is a very critical thing, because one of the reasons I always like to tell people jokingly, but there's some truth to it, is one of the reasons I hate being in IT, one of the reasons I hate being in DevOps, is because I have too many scars. And I mean, as much as I love troubleshooting, there's just so many things that I'd rather be doing than troubleshooting.
Well, I love troubleshooting as well. In fact, that's when I was in high school and I decided what I wanted to do with my life, I decided I wanted to be someone who fixed things. And what those things are didn't necessarily matter as much to me as being able to be able to figure things out and repair and fix them, which that's not what I heard from a lot of my my friends growing up. That seemed to be a unique thing, and the more and more I'm in different industries over the years. Of course, software development has been the last almost 40. It's troubleshooting is the basic troubleshooting remains the same.
But I think it is generational though, because you grew up in an era with you. If you wanted to go online, you had to figure out how to get online.
Sure, there was no online when I grew up.
And my kids came out of the womb online.
Yes, and now that they're of an age to be on the internet, they have all the AI tools for them.
Yeah, so. but I will tell you, our Wi-Fi went out on Saturday when we were at the House of Mouse, and that morning my kids it was chaos. Yeah. They're like, "What are we gonna do without Wi-Fi?" And I'm like, "Did you guys check the box to see if any lights are blinking?" And so even then, I'm having to teach them how to do some basic troubleshooting. But let's get into some tips. So I think the right one to start off with, John, if I might
Mhm.
impose,
Go for
is my basic and the most favorite, and I think this is the one that's on t-shirts, right? That you turn it off and on again.
it. Yes.
That
So
solves how many percentages of problems
yes,
in IT?
starting from a square one or starting from scratch for any problem or from a known state, turning it on and off again, that is like a great first step. I would say a step zero is calm down and don't panic, which is also on a lot of t-shirts.
It's a
Don't
perfect time to panic.
yeah, it's yeah, it's not good to troubleshoot something if you're panicking, and I'd also refer back to, kind of the story where I was going with where I wanted my career to go and fixing things is troubleshooting is fun if there's no immediate deadline or immediate milestone that not being able to fix the problem is going to cause a problem for. So
Yeah.
if you have an outage where the company's losing $1 million a minute, um, and you have to troubleshoot the system to get it back up and running, that's a tremendous
Yeah.
pressure to troubleshoot on.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna have the worst tunnel vision ever. You're gonna forget your
yes,
name, your date
exactly.
of birth, basic common things that you're supposed to
Your,
know.
your
You're gonna forget.
password to get onto the system
Yeah, gone.
is now that's gone. I don't
Username,
remember
what
that at all.
username?
Yeah, and so obviously trying to calm down and being able to slowly understand the problem, conceptualize what you're trying to fix, I would say is really a step zero. But then step one, try to restart from a known point.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
would even take a step zero night. I would go to step -1.
well, we need to probably start renumbering these.
Yeah, if I had to take a step -1, that would be, especially when you're in the world of IT and DevOps, is expect the unexpected. It's gonna happen. It's not a matter of if;
So
it's a
that's
matter of
that's the
when.
Spanish Inquisition. Yeah.
Yeah. So expect it, and so I would today, when there is no fire drill, when the world's not on fire, when the sky's not falling, have your documentation, know where it's at,
No, it's yeah.
know your architecture, know your systems, know your passwords, know your usernames, know who to call, know the vendor's number,
Yeah.
know the website, know the place to go support the ticket, know your identification numbers. Like Atlassian has this SEN,
SEN
right?
that no one ever remembers. Or
So
yeah.
right now, when everything is calm,
Mhm.
when you are calm,
Yeah.
have this at an arm's reach, because if and when it does happen, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when,
When yes.
right? Then you will, it'll help you to be more calm. It'll help step zero be better.
Yes.
And
and
then our step one is really like, our step one is before you start panicking, restart, because 9 times out of 10 a restart is going to fix the problem
yeah.
and crisis averted.
Now,
So if
now,
you
but
follow
that
those
10th time restarting causes worse problems. So,
I, I've been in those situations where you're like, it's working. Like if I turn it off, I can't guarantee it's going to come back on. So
exactly.
yeah, there
Or
is that scenario.
we're connected to a database and it seems like all the data is there, but we know if we stop, we won't connect to the database again.
Yeah,
And we don't know if we have a good backup of the database. So don't restart everything. But
yeah,
no, you're right. 9 out of 10 times, restarting services or restarting
the problem.
the problem, it makes the problem go away.
Yeah, but use your judgment, and we're gonna have to put a disclaimer. These are not legal statements. Your experience may vary.
Exactly. There's so many variables in what you may be troubleshooting. These are all generic, guidelines.
Yeah. So, assuming you're good with step -1, you're good with step zero, and you've tried to restart, let's get into some real, like, okay, so those are the baby steps, right? I would say those are the
Yeah.
fundamentals. If you're not doing those first three
Mhm.
initial items, then like you've
Yeah.
already lost the game.
Yeah.
You haven't even shown up to the arena, and you're already a lose. You've already lost.
Mhm.
So
Now, some of these next ones you may be familiar with if you've ever had to call tech support for anything, because they obviously the first thing they want you to do is reset your device or reboot your
yeah,
device, whatever you're calling for. And you've probably already done that 2 or 3 times, but the professional is going to ask you to do it again because never trust the person who is reporting the problem.
right.
So if you're not experiencing the problem directly and you're being asked to troubleshoot something, trust but verify. You don't want to say no, I don't trust you at all, but because
Let's
obviously
try it again.
they're reporting something. But yeah, verify that's what the problem. I may have told the story the other on the earlier podcast, but once someone swore up and down a device wasn't working in their office and they could not join an activity that required that device. I'm trying to be very generic here and very vague. And I really questioned if this was true. And so I walked into their office and I pushed the button on their device and it worked as expected. And they turned around like, whoa, it didn't work the last time I tried it. And I was like, okay, I'll just leave it there. I didn't push to say when was the last time you tried it or any of that. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. It seems to be fine now.
Yeah.
So
And so,
be careful what people are describing, especially if they're very descriptive.
yeah. And so I would say if we wanted to summarize a step two is define the problem clearly, right? Don't assume because you know what happens when you assume things,
Yes, yes, yeah.
right? Don't ever assume and if you're making assumptions in the world of IT or DevOps, like you're definitely going to
There must be a law on this, but if you make an assumption in IT, the assumption's always going to be wrong.
and it's going to bite you hard.
It will bite you back.
Yeah.
And there'll be a dozen onlookers who will swear up and down they knew that and they just didn't bother to tell you.
Yeah. But yeah, so define the problem correctly, right? Because some people are going to misinterpret what they're seeing, right? Some people are going to say, I swore I clicked on this button, but they clicked on a completely different button, right?
They were in a different screen and they just
Yeah.
weren't aware
And
of
if you're
that.
lucky, right? If you're lucky, it was user error. That's my favorite step to troubleshooting, right? Whenever it's user error, but nothing's actually wrong with the system, right? There's nothing that I have to do.
Yeah.
And it's just the user didn't understand something correctly.
Don't always assume user error because it goes back to don't always assume, but be diplomatic about it and double check that it wasn't user error.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's 9 out of 10 times, maybe 8.5 out of 10 times, it actually is a user error. And if you're in charge of the system that you're trying to troubleshoot, rule out user error before you dive in and do any heavy lifting with the
Yeah,
system.
and you know what I'm doing too when I'm trying to troubleshoot this user error as I'm telling them, giving them instructions, I'm trying to replicate it.
Mhm.
Because if I can reproduce it, then it probably wasn't user error.
Yes.
And if you can't reproduce it, ask a great question. Are you the only one experiencing this, right? Maybe it's the whole department,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it could be that an entire wall has lost power and it's just a wall.
Yeah.
So you're trying to find patterns, right? You're trying to find
Mhm.
commonalities
Yep.
whenever you're trying to troubleshoot here because you can't. Not every problem's a snowflake, right? Usually, one person's impacted, it's going to be
Other people
widespread.
will notice, and that's kind of like the checking the simple the simpler things first, and that's trying to find the patterns. Like exactly like you said, is anyone else having this? Have you tried a different machine? Is it can you tie it to a user? Is it a user account problem across many people, or is it a machine problem?
Mhm.
And obviously, it depends on the system. I'm trying to be very generic on what system
Right, but the point here is you can't again just use the information you know. You got to go fishing for some other details, and in good troubleshooting techniques, you got to go and ask those kind of discovery questions of like who, what, when, where, why,
Yeah.
how, to help you paint a better picture. Because you're only going to receive that request of a problem is going to be very biased to the user submitting.
Yes.
And you don't want to spin yourself up and get all panicky and everything and waste resources when it might be user error, it might be a simple restart that fixes it, right? Get some data, get some information. And and I was working with somebody on JSM today, that's a great use for JSM, right? If you're commonly asking these questions, these should be fields in your Jira and your Jira
Yes. Well,
management.
it should be in your knowledge base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are like the basic stuff that you should be asking just to double check that they're there. But I would, again, before you start panicking, make sure you're understanding the problem correctly and make sure you're understanding some impacts and stuff like that. What else? Well, what's
So,
next? Let's go to step 3, maybe.
yeah. So Yeah, I'm not sure if we're still numbering these. I think we threw a
I'm
bunch.
on track. I think we're on step 3. Everything we just
Okay.
described was part of defining the problem better.
Okay. All right. So the next is, like I think I alluded to it already. Check the more simple things first. I think we already talked about the on off. We definitely did. But like a lot of times when I'm talking to a junior person who obviously doesn't have troubleshooting skills, I use the simplest example of my garden hose. And if your garden hose isn't spitting out water, what is the first thing you should do? And that's obviously is is it connected to the spigot, and is the spigot turned on? And then if the answer is not, if the answer is yes and it's still not working, then you follow the hose down and look for kinks. So that's the most simplistic example that I can think of for how to fix trouble, or how to troubleshoot a system.
I don't
So
know you want to fix trouble.
yeah, you don't want to fix trouble. Well, I'm always causing trouble.
Yeah.
But
That's the skill in itself. Make sure you subscribe for a future episode. How to cause chaos in your IT organization.
yeah. So anyway, you want to work step by step. So whatever so if the user comes to you, reports it don't work, so go see if it's running. Does it work for you? Going back to reproducing the problem, go step by step. Okay, I can see it doesn't work for me, so I've reproduced the problem. Now,
Yeah.
we're usually talking, we're mainly talking about computer application problems and stuff. So is it running? Is the server that it's running on running? Is it a containerized? Whatever your environment is, are the basics there? And then slowly work your way up to what are the errors? Is there anything in the error log?
You said something very, very important here. Check the basics. I would like to be the theme. I can't speak English. I would like for
Is
that
that our
to be
number
the theme.
4?
No, this is number 3. The
Oh,
number
number
3
3.
is check the basics, right?
Yeah.
I'll share my story. A couple weeks ago, I was trying to troubleshoot a printer that can't see a network attached storage. And the first thing I did was I went to the computer that can see the hard drive, and I checked its IP address, right? I'm like, okay, I know what IP address you're on, the subnets and all that good stuff. And then I went to the machine that didn't, and I'm like, first thing I'm checking is, are we on the same network?
Yeah.
Because I can't expect something to talk to another network if
it's
I
not
can't
there.
expect to talk to something on the network if I'm on a different network. So I'm checking basics. I'm doing like, who am I, right?
Yeah.
And just super, super just bare bones, like get information, start collecting facts and data, but basic stuff, right? You don't need to go into page 100 of the manual here. You just need to go, okay, what are we talking to? What's expected behavior here? Again, IP addresses, statuses of services, check for services that are supposed to be running,
host names, DNS setup. Yeah, the real basics. And yeah, I like the title of number 3, because more often than not, when I'm working with someone who's troubleshooting a system and they've brought me in because they need a more senior pair of eyes, or another expert, they have jumped to page 100 in the manual, or they jump to this. The last time I had a problem with this system, it was XYZ.
You go straight to that.
And go straight to that and not check any of this other stuff. Where a couple times it might be exactly the same problem you saw last time, and that saved you a whole bunch of time troubleshooting.
But you're assuming again.
That's a huge assumption.
Yeah, we're back to assuming. You never assuming will be your worst enemy when it comes to troubleshooting.
Yeah.
Never assume anything, because the most obvious thing that you can assume is going to be the thing that bites you in the butt.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, ping things, ping the servers, ping the machines, ping the services.
Ping and traceroute, my favorite 2 basic troubleshooting commands. If I can ping it, I'm like, that's great. Now let's traceroute the thing.
Yeah.
And, we're going through 3 other servers, and one's in Nebraska for some reason. Well, we don't need to do that.
Yeah. From a Jira perspective, I can't tell you the number of times that people will be like, I can't access this website, or I can't access the Confluence space, or I can't access Jira. And the untrained person would go off into a wild goose chase, check licenses, check this, that, and the other. And I always, every time that I get something, I'm like, can you give me a screenshot of the whole window? And they're like, sure. Why is that necessary? I'm like, because 9 times out of 10, you're not logged into Jira. and I already know what I'm looking for. I'm seeing that I'm confirming that you're logged in.
Yeah.
Before I go and get myself all worked up and troubleshoot on hard mode, I
Mhm.
want to check those basics. I want to see, are you at least logged into the dang thing? Because
Yeah,
most of
well,
the time you forget and you're trying to access something you thought you were logged in,
yeah,
but you cleared your cache last week because you
yeah.
don't want your spouse to find something, and now all of a sudden,
Oh, where we're going with this?
are we gonna need to do a Doru after life after night?
After dark.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. But I actually had a reverse experience where I assumed something and it bit me. So I was on my way out of a client site a couple weeks ago, and someone who's a power user who I respect was having a problem. And I swung by his office on the way out, say, "Hey, what's going on?" And he showed me an error message. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a Java dump. That's an error message I'm familiar with and cannot necessarily do anything with a Java dump. But okay, we can probably go look at this. And he's like, well, it's not that important. It can wait till tomorrow. And I'm just like, okay, well, it's probably not user error. I'll look at it in the morning. Well, he went to somebody else after I left, and that person didn't assume the guy knew what he was doing, so they made him go back through what he was doing, and he had an error in a CSV file that he was trying to import into Jira. And Jira, instead of being nice and actually telling you that, hey, it's bad format, it was printing out this Java dump. So data center version of Jira. Obviously, that would never happen in the cloud.
Never happened. Yeah.
But I would have found that had I made him tell me what he was actually doing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of what he was trying to do. He was just showing me this error message. And
Which I think that's a great transition to tip number 4, which is gather evidence. Start looking at your logs. Start doing metrics, right? Start looking at recent changes that somebody did.
yeah, what changed recently is
Yeah, start to see if somebody else is also experiencing the problem, right? You're in fact gathering mode. You've already taken care of some basics and everything so far. You struck out on everything, folks. By the time you start making it step 4, I start worrying because now something's really wrong, right? If you've managed to gather those basics, you've managed to restart, and you've managed to not panic, you are at the point where, like, okay, so something is up, something is wrong, right? And in the words of Miss Frizzle, something is not right, something's not quite right, or something is, I forget.
I'm not familiar with where you're going with this quote.
I'm trying to quote Miss somebody. There's something in a movie somewhere where they're like, something is not right, something is quite
I'm
wrong.
really narrowing it down.
No, wait, isn't that the Mad Hatter?
The Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland?
Yes, I feel like the quote is something is not right, something is quite wrong.
Okay. During edit, I'll find a Mad Hatter quote and I'll put it down here in this section down here for all the listeners.
Madeline, no, I don't know. It's from a movie. It's from like a 90s movie.
90s movie. Okay, well, that's narrowing it down a little bit for me. I'll see if I can find it and plug it in. But
Yeah,
moving right
not
along.
right. Something is quite wrong.
Yeah.
It's from the Madeline series. Yeah, apparently it's from a book.
So not Alice in Wonderland. No. I would be looking in the wrong place.
But something about Madeline series. But yeah, something is not right. So at this point, you're starting to go, okay, something's up, right? Something is. Yeah. It's clearly fishy. Something's not.
Yeah, obviously the reboot didn't fix it because we're down to step 4. So if you're 9 out of 10 of the situations that a reboot would have fixed it, we're at the point where the reboot didn't fix it. What are you able to fix at this point versus what do you have to escalate? And that depends a lot on your environment and the system that you're troubleshooting. So at this point, you may be needing to bring in other expertise.
Well, maybe you're. I think the expert that I would start bringing in at this point would be Google.
True.
Right, because
especially if you have an error message.
Yeah, if you have error messages, right? If the logs are yelling red things at you, because I hate to pull in Sean, 30-year vet here, and go, hey, Sean, I'm having a problem. And Sean looks at the logs like, well, did you try this?
Yeah, and then I just push a button and the system works.
Yeah. Right. So before you go and escalate to somebody to help you, which I think is a telling of this step, right? you should Google the obvious things that are yelling at you at this point.
If you have something to Google. But you can even Google the symptoms if
Yeah,
you're
that's what
good at
that's what.
explaining them. But
And I
and,
would
and,
even go. I would go as far as saying even Jibbity with Jibbity 5,
mhm,
describing the symptoms,
yes.
right? Describing the behaviors that you're seeing.
Mhm,
I got very far with my last troubleshooting effort because I had no idea where I was at or where to even start. And I just told it in English. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get this. I can't see this hard drive. And so it's telling me ping it. So I pinged it. That's
mhm,
where I got the DNS name. And it's like, okay, I see the DNS name. So then I'm like, ping the DNS. I'm like, it doesn't work. Like, okay, well, it doesn't work DNS, but you can get to the IP address. Now let's go check the tables.
mhm,
Right? Let's go check the localhost file, right? And then so I'm like, okay, I put it in the localhost. I still can't ping it. They're like, great. Now let's go check the firewall, right? And so it's walking you as you're
mhm.
describing the symptoms, and it's telling you what to troubleshoot. The new GPT is amazing with when
Yeah,
it comes to IT help.
the more AI tools advance, the better they are at helping you troubleshoot. And I you may even start jumping to them in phase two of the of our phases, but they're extremely helpful,
Yeah.
and I see more and more people using them, in corporate environments all the time. And I don't know if we're to the point what yet that people are using them, are not embarrassed to use them. People are still being kind of sly about where they got their answers. But I have worked with a system administrator that has the AI tool up on his desk all the time.
I'd rather have the AI tool and I'd rather have Google up because I can't tell you the frustration that I have personally felt
Mhm,
when somebody's like, I have a problem with X.
mhm,
It's I do a lot of Jira troubleshooting, right? And so somebody will tell me I can't do this in Jira, right? Of status is missing in Jira, whatever.
mhm.
And I'll put into Google, my status is missing in Jira.
Uh-huh.
Enter. And the first result, I copy paste that. I'm like, did you try that?
How many times is it your video?
It- that's why I make a living. That's why I feed my kids. But
Hey, welcome to DevOps Roundup. We're here at the AI Summer Camp.
And we want to just do a quick intro to the channel in case you're new here. We're Sean and Alex, and we are the hosts of the DevOps Roundup podcast. And we encourage you to subscribe. We talk about all things DevOps.
Here we are at our first in-person meeting, our road show, if you will, of the summer.
Again, subscribe to the channel. We have a weekly podcast here. We are talking about all things DevOps. We are even working on some tutorials on teaching you how to use some of these tools. But if you want to come in and join us as we talk about various companies and tools and technologies, methodologies, frameworks, anything and everything within the DevOps space, we're definitely your new podcast to listen to.
Yeah, definitely. So release team, DevOps tool specialist. We provide professional services and software reselling around the leading software DevOps tools like Atlassian, GitLab, GitHub, JFrog, and others. To talk with us about DevOps, here's our contact information. Please call 866-887-0489 or via email at info@releaseteam.com.
I feel my kid. But you gotta do before you start sounding alarms, right? Before you start escalating,
Yeah,
do the basic Googling or AIing. Is AIing even a verb now?
it is now. Yeah.
We're making it here,
Yeah.
right? But do that because it's gonna save face. It's gonna save you a lot of
Mhm.
potential embarrassment too.
Yeah.
But yeah, if all that though, right? If you're Googling and you're checking errors and you're trying things here and there and everywhere and it's still not working,
Mhm.
then that's when I think we're ready to escalate to our what I was maybe call our last and final step of troubleshooting.
Yeah, I think escalation should be the final step. Another good tip is document what you're doing as you're doing it, especially if you're getting to a very complex system and it's been hours of troubleshooting, and you are going to start forgetting that, oh, I did try that and this was the result. So I like to keep a text file open where I can cut and paste what I've been doing. If you're on a
You
Linux
know, yeah,
system,
the up arrow on a Linux system is my favorite
yeah,
key.
or you pipe history to a text file, so you save it and it doesn't scroll off
Yeah, that's
your
much more
stack.
sophisticated than what I do. I just go back up and go, "Yep, I already tried that one. Already tried that one. Already tried that
Well,
one."
if you're troubleshooting, that's something that spans multiple systems,
Yeah,
and
but
keeping a cheat sheet of what you've been doing is going to help you tremendously, especially if you end up having to escalate it to somebody,
oh yeah,
because those people are going to do the things that we
that we
talked
just
about at the beginning. They're going to make you go back to basics. And did you reboot it? Did you do this? Did you,
yep.
the same thing that what happens when you call Verizon about a cell phone problem? They're going to make you reboot it. They're going to make you.
But the only difference is that their per hour rate is 10 times more than yours.
Oh, I hope my rate's higher than the Verizon helpline, but
No, but like, but if you had to
the
manage
people
like,
that you escalated to. Yeah.
no, but yeah, but like if you had like, I had to call Microsoft once because they had to help me with the problem. If you're calling up the vendor for help, it's gonna
Mhm.
be a very expensive call.
I guess it could be. Yeah, it depends
Depends
on
on the vendor.
depends on the vendor, depends on the contract. Yeah.
Microsoft was charging me 2 arms and a leg and have a kidney here for
Oh,
a call once. But I'll tell you a great story about that one though. I had an outage one time. My SharePoint and Team Foundation server went down, and we tried the basics. Right, we went through all these, troubleshooting. We restarted the servers, waited for things to come back up. Right, try. Somebody's calling.
it's okay. I'll edit that out.
Yeah. We tried all the basics. We tried troubleshooting. We restarted the services, restarted the servers, right? Checked the databases were good. Everything, like, we did all the basic troubleshooting. Everything looked good. We're looking at the logs. We're googling the logs. Nothing's showing up on Google. This was before the age of AI, right? So really, just had Google and any internal and any tribal knowledge that you had in your team.
Before AI, what?
Yeah, we're pinging each other. We're on a call, and we get to the point where like we can't solve this problem. Right, we've exhausted our options, so we call up Microsoft's Premier Tech Support, and we jump on with them, and they're doing again. They go through some basics, and then they make this recommendation. Um, Let me rephrase that. My team makes a recommendation on something we should try, and Microsoft brushes it off as no, it can't be that. Again, assumptions.
Yes.
We then proceed 17 hours at $500 an hour
Mhm.
to proceed troubleshooting. We're at this point, we are uninstalling services, we're uninstalling software. We
That's
just bought
never
a new, we are on a new server with a new host, reinstalling everything, migrating databases 17 hours later. And then we have a thought to try something 17 hours later,
Mhm.
which was the original thought that my team had 17 hours before. And it ended up being that.
Mhm.
And I could have saved 17 hours and whatever 17 times 500 is.
Well, it's probably 17 times 500 times the number of people on your end
Yeah.
that were also.
Right. So we could have saved thousands and thousands of dollars had we not done an assumption or had we not brushed something off. And I would maybe even add this as a pro tip as well, right? Is don't brush off even the most obvious thing.
Yes. So I would completely agree with that. I'd also add, don't be the person in the room that's randomly throwing out wild guesses while other people are truly troubleshooting.
Back to the Vince Vaughn scene. You gotta help the problem, not hurt the problem.
Yes.
But I think those are the good, 5 major tips plus a couple bonuses at the beginning. But if I were to take away something from this episode, right, is you need to be curious.
Mhm.
You're not going to troubleshoot if you're expecting the answers to be handed to you on a silver platter. You're not going to exceed here. You're going to be very frustrated. You're going to be very mad. You have to somehow motivate yourself to continue
Yes.
because it is the most frustrating thing in the world because this stuff's not going to work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
step one's not
you'll
going to
get
work.
to the point like there's no reason why this should not be working, and but it's not working, and you may have been working at fixing this or troubleshooting this for hours, if not the entire day, and you want to go home to your family, but you have a development environment that's down or a production environment that's down, and there's tremendous pressure to get this back up and running. uh, don't be defeated. Just continue on using these tips, documenting what you're doing, and eventually escalating.
Yeah, and that matter of first principles, right? Those basics is so critical, so important. you sometimes have to revert back to first principles and get the most fundamental thing to work, right? And then build up from there, because I think too many
Mhm.
people, again, that you jump straight to page 100 on the manual,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's as simple as like something super basic, super
Mhm. Yeah.
super
There's a
easy.
typo in a config file that somebody didn't realize was part of your system or
Yeah.
didn't realize was that important, and that took the whole thing down.
But I think going back to basics though is again my favorite step here, because I worked in two scenarios where we worked on a program where we could not get two machines to talk to each other. We coded everything up, right? Services were created, everything was launched, everything worked. Individually, everything worked correctly. But when we had to make the two machines talk to each other, they wouldn't talk to each other. And we just could not for the life of us figure it out. In simulation, it worked. Everything worked in theory. It turned out that we had to start ripping tiles off of the lab. Like we had an erased floor.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
started tracing Cat5 cables
Mhm.
until we found a switch that had the wires reversed.
Uh-huh.
And until you like, those are the things where you're just gonna bang your head against a wall here, because you're like, I should have known. But
Yeah.
it's the most obvious solution is not gonna be obvious at all.
No, not at all. Well, to wrap this up, um, I guess that we should end on escalate and knowing when to escalate. And you don't want to throw the towel in too early, but you don't want to end up troubleshooting for 17 hours when escalating on hour two probably would have
Would
solved
have
it.
started helping. Yeah, because experts are trained, right? People call me and we charge a decent amount of money to come in and look at a problem and be able to give you an answer in 5 seconds. I have a personal SLA of 20 minutes or less. All right,
All
folks. If
right.
you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
All right. Until next time, this has been the DevOps Roundup.
Thank you all. Oh, share your favorite
Oh,
troubleshooting tip down below.
yes. Join us in our community section of the YouTube channel.
Bye.